Hello, and welcome to the Season 6 finale of Can't Think Straight. And welcome to my final episode on Can't Think Straight. Aww. Who would have thought that 4 seasons of producing would fly by the way that they did? Let us all take a moment to reflect on everything that has been accomplished over these last few years. Oh man, this is crazy. This is the last episode. I have yet to gain omnipotence, so I'm not sure what Can't Think Straight will look like from here on out, but I have a feeling that the show will be in good hands. For the sake of tradition, we'll be sticking with our regular structure and start with the crash course. Kennedy, what are we learning about today?
Act up? What do you mean act up? Hey gang, welcome back to Crash Course Can't Think Straight. I'm your host, Kennedy Madron, and today's Crash Course is diving into the archives of a very tense, emotional, and dark time in Americans' history for many a part of the gay community. So, this Crash Course episode is about an international organization and protest movement founded to bring awareness towards the AIDS epidemic happening during the early 80s and 90s. And that international organization was called ACT UP. So are you ready to learn a little something? By 1987, AIDS had taken the lives of 60,000 people, and at the time, those in the gay community were the ones being the most affected by it. And because of the stigma and prejudices surrounding homosexuality at the time, President Ronald Reagan and his administration were slow to provide research and funding to help those battling AIDS and HIV. So in order to put pressure on the government and save their friends, the gay community had to exert further action to somehow stop the death of innocent people. And so America's first international organization created to bring awareness to the AIDS epidemic was formed. Founded by the Gay and Lesbian Community Service Center in Manhattan, New York, they called it ACT UP. Those a part of ACT UP knew they had to make some noise in order for the government and the world to hear them. So they started carrying out daily acts of peaceful protests and civil disobedience so attention would be given to the reality many with AIDS were facing. So after months of protest, their first victory finally arrived. In June of the same year ACT UP was formed, activists protested at Northwest Orient Airline offices in New York City. But why would they protest at an airport? Well, because this particular airline prohibited people with AIDS to travel on their flights. So ACT UP brought 2 lawsuits against Northwest Orient, and the airline reversed their policy on the issue. More and more victories started to be won by the activist group. They founded a philanthropy called Housing Work, which aided in getting many people with AIDS off the street by getting them resources and services to help with homelessness, which many were facing. And later ACT UP would establish a needle exchange program to allow those with AIDS to get clean injections to help with the disease. The organization's next biggest feat came with the help of Mark Harrington, who helped host ACT UP's Treatment and Data Committee meetings. Harrington was a public demonstrational expert, so he helped organize ACT UP's seize control of FDA protest in 1988, as well as their Storm the NIH protest. But what made these protests so impactful and successful was Harrington's understanding of the rules and bureaucracy within the FDA. ACT UP became detailed in their protests and argued with the rules of the FDA to win. They fought for action that people who were facing certain death should have access to reasonable, safe experimental drugs. And by 1990, the FDA had taken this approach. The ACT UP organization was gaining traction, and thus they decided they needed an image and slogan to represent the cause. For their slogan, they debated 4 suggestions, eventually landing on silence equals death. They next needed an image that would convey the severity of the AIDS epidemic. They talked about the pride flag, but it was just too friendly. And then they talked about an equal sign, but that didn't really convey the message either. Eventually, they landed on the pink triangle used during the Holocaust, which was used to label gay men at the time. They decided to then turn the pink triangle upside down, and since then many people in the 80s wore the t-shirt with the slogan and image to support the cause. Unfortunately, the original ACT UP activist organization would break up later, due to disagreement and distrust within the group. But this does not mean the end of ACT UP. Since then, ACT UP has established chapters in many big cities, such as New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, and has continued its activism for the LGBT community with smaller membership. ACT UP was an extremely impactful grassroots movement that urged for change and action for those with AIDS. and it's something a lot of people unfortunately don't know about. But now you do. So thank you for joining me on this episode, and I hope you learned a little something. So I'll catch you next time, hopefully on Crash Course.
Thank you, Kennedy, for sharing what ACT UP is and what they stand for. As I've mentioned before, Kennedy writes and edits all of the Crash Courses, and that is not an easy endeavor, to say the least. Doing this for every episode is a huge responsibility, but Kennedy has been super reliable and informative throughout her time working at CTS. So I want to shout you out, Kennedy, one more time before we part ways for the semester. But don't go anywhere, because we will be right back with headlines. Hello and welcome back to Headlines. For those of you who are new here, I like to take this part of the episode to chat about what's going on in the queer community and within popular culture. But before I do that, let's catch up on some local queer news. In the previous episode, we chatted about the Pride Week name change and the cancellation of drag-related events at App State. I was working to find the root cause of these cancellations, but came back empty-handed. App State expressed that these changes were out of their control due to some government regulations, but there's no North Carolina state law that prohibits the state from funding pride initiatives like drag events. I listed a few bills that could have been contributing factors to App State's crackdown, but none of them justified the cancellations. So I did a little more digging and found that the issue snowballed into becoming larger topics for large media sites like Teen Vogue and Inside Higher Ed. IHE reported that not 2, not 3, but 4 LGBTQ+ App State employees were fired without reason within the last year. According to IHE, when the employees inquired about their termination, 2 of the former employees said that they were told North Carolina is an at-will state. This means that our state doesn't have to disclose their reasoning behind firing somebody. This led to a large amount of pushback from the students at App State, as well as from the queer community all around the country, making it impossible for App State to avoid their questions. Right? Wrong. App State gave a sorry-ass excuse that shed no light on the ongoing problem in their statement. Since the school dodged the hot seat once again, myself and Riley Carlson from AWN interviewed 2 drag queens from the Boone Barbies to offer what the university cannot.
So essentially it comes down to App State admin being scared of similar anti-DEI legislation that we're seeing in other states. First of all, there is no legislation in place currently, and I think that App State should more boldly stand behind its committed students and members of the community, whether we're drag performers, queer people, or not.
I'm an art student as well as a drag queen, so my freedom of expression is being completely taken away from me. I'm studying art, and drag is my chosen art form that I've come to this college to represent and to learn more about, and I'm being told that that's invalid.
Unfortunately, I will not be able to update you any further on this issue, considering this is my last episode. But hear me now. Keep fighting the good fight. Even when you feel like your back's up against a wall and there's nothing left for you to do, don't give up on what you know is correct. Dig deeper and find the will to fight. Because when the world is against you and all you can do is stand tall and have faith in yourself, be a majority of one. Enough serious chat. Let's have a little fun for the back half of this finale and jump into headlines. Germany has passed a new law making it easier for trans individuals to change their name and gender. Germany has also legalized weed. So, yeah, keep up the good work. During an interview on Dax Shepard's podcast, John Cena admits to getting into a few fights to defend the honor of his gay brother at school. I mean, imagine getting jumped by John Cena for being homophobic. That is so humbling. Birth control can now be distributed over the counter in New York. This aids the efforts of Planned Parenthood, giving women a little more freedom when it comes to their bodies. And last, I just want to shout out all of the women's college basketball players for changing the name of the game, specifically Caitlin Clark. who is shouldering the responsibility of being a role model for the younger generation of athletic women. To Miss Clark and the other ladies out there, keep fighting that good fight. And that brings our headlines portion to a close. I have a little surprise for everyone when we get back, so don't go anywhere. So, in my final episode of Can't Think Straight, I decided I wanted to do something I haven't done since I think like season 4. So drum roll, please. The wheel of mind contortion. Woo, woo! And this time I'm not having just one, but 2 guests joining me.
Wow. Wow.
Are you guys like stoked to be here?
Yeah.
What?
I'm really excited.
I've never been on Can't Think Straight, so thank you so much for having me.
Of
I could not be more
course,
excited.
Of course. And would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yes, hello, I'm Nick Ragone. You may recognize me if you watch App TV. I'm on AWN, I'm on Up Late, I'm on Pixel Peak. So, I just tinker around.
I'm Luke Simpson. I'm on AWN as well and Up Late. Yeah, I'm funny, I guess.
Slay.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Do one of y'all want to do the honors?
That didn't do anything. I broke it.
Here we go. I'm spinning it.
All right, that's my.
So colorful.
I know, right?
Very Can't Think Straight.
Oh. I think I thought you stole medieval.
Just, I was rushing. Okay.
You devil.
How long do you think a medieval child would survive in a mosh pit?
I think the more important question is, how long can our ops manager Jenna Dunning survive in a mosh pit?
I think Jenna could last a while, but a medieval, like, what kind of mosh pit are we talking? Are we talking like Travis Scott? Are we talking like
Top tier mosh pit would probably be like what?
Woodstock.
Yes,
Woodstock, that's a
yeah.
good one.
I feel like prime Woodstock. It maybe if Jimi Hendrix was playing.
I'm gonna say maybe 2 minutes.
Not long.
Not long.
Not long.
Accidental inhalation, common thing.
It's true.
And you this poor like 10-year-old medieval child that's like 4'1" and like 70 pounds soaking wet. Imagine what would happen to their brain if they accidentally inhaled some of the stuff that was going around at Woodstock.
No. Can we get like a visual representation?
Yeah.
You're 5'4",
I'm like 5'4", 5'5". I'm in between those.
so that's like a foot and 4 inches
Yeah.
shorter than you.
Yeah, so like here's like medieval child.
4 foot is at like my chest.
Yeah.
Right? So
So
that would be terrible.
what are you
Like
doing?
That would be
You're 6'5", right?
6'5", yes.
You're
Wow.
borderline out of frame. You are out.
I
of
am
frame.
out of frame.
You're
Excellent.
completely out of frame.
I am.
Can you imagine a 4 foot
If-
child like right here? Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I would say between 2 and 3 minutes. 2 and 3 minutes.
Like-
no way. No more, no less.
2 or 3
Consistently?
minutes okay, or like 2 or 3 minutes under people's feet.
No, 2 or 3 minutes and then they're.
Okay.
I mean, it makes sense.
Hi, like
Hi, Google.
I don't know.
I've considered selling my kidney for a Porsche 911 GTR. So cool. So they're
Okay,
it's
okay.
like $211,000. And if you look on Google how much you can sell your kidney for, it's like $215,000. And I've got 2 kidneys. So
What happens if you lose the kidney, or like that kidney fails?
I could drive to the hospital with my Porsche 911 GT3 RS.
That's a wrap. Everybody get out.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank y'all so much.
Bye, Jenna.
Bye. Bye. Well, damn. This is the end of another little journey for me. I know this show is pretty much viewed by a handful of people, but if I was able to make just one person feel happy or seen or moved in any way, it would make this whole thing worth it. These episodes will live on in the archives of App TV as a resource for the queer community and as a mile marker for myself when I look back to see how far I've come. I have big plans for the future and cannot wait to see where life takes me. That's all for this episode, and that's all for me here at App TV. Thanks for watching another season of Can't Think Straight, and thank you for giving me a place to express myself freely.